Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, we're going to go over 5 of the people that avoidants tend to obsess over or be very inclined to. I've made videos like this before, but some of y'all are new, so we're going to go ahead and talk about this today. It's not limited to 5. These are just the 5 that I picked and that I see when I'm practicing and things that I observe, okay? For both fearful and dismissive, and then also for both male and female avoidance, okay? Often the person that they tend to, I guess, obsess over or they need to learn to heal from, whatever it may be. Oh, and before we jump into it, sometimes a person can be multiple of these points. I'll explain that in a little bit, but you can fit a couple of these criteria. It doesn't have to be like 5 separate people, okay? So let's go ahead. The first one is the person that they hurt in their past that they don't have a chance to get back with. A lot of avoidants have this. Often they try to win this person back, and hopefully it turns out fine and you guys make it work. This one usually takes a while for it to happen, but it can create change to which the avoidant learns to either move on from this person and forgive themselves, or create a situation where this person can be reintroduced into their life and they can make things better and they can change. Either way, typically this person that they hurt in their past, motivates them to realize and be a better person. It doesn't even have to be necessarily something specific to avoidance, but it does happen. I want to give an example that is not as common with avoidance or can happen with anyone that can help you guys realize where the motivation is coming from. So let's say, for example, you have a job and it was a simple job and you always skated by, and let's say good benefits, pretty good pay, good work-life balance, but you just didn't focus on it that much. And you kind of took it for granted and you just thought that it was the way it was because you've had it ever since you graduated college, and now you've had it for like 40 something years. And then you did something at work that was a little careless and it ended up getting you fired. Let's just say that's the storyline, okay? You're obviously going to be very hurt about it. You did appreciate your job. You just didn't realize what you had, because now you go out there and you realize the job market might not be as good. It's hard to get benefits. Maybe at your age, it's hard to get a job. It was easier when you were in your 20s for whatever reason. Your skill set doesn't match as jobs as much because you've been in a certain position, whatever it may be. So usually all those variables together makes an avoidant feel, okay, I lost this person, or this example, I really wish I didn't do that with my job. So either I'm going to try and maybe reapply or have a communication, whatever it may be, try and get things back together. Not as easy with a job. Or next time I'm going to make sure I never do that again. And so that's kind of where this comes from, if that makes sense, okay? And the next one is typically the person, it's typically a parental figure or a parent that they feel like they failed, okay? This can create a barrier in relationships, actually, but this is so common with avoidance, okay? And usually it's not always the person. I'm going to try and explain it. It's not always the part, like, okay, let's say we have a dismissive avoidant person and one of their parents is dismissive avoidant. It doesn't always have to be the dismissive avoidant parent. It can be the other parent. It can be the anxious, preoccupied parent, or whoever it is. Like, I'm thinking of my particular example. Like, this one's a little bit more particular to me. I've always been more closer emotionally to my dad, who's also avoidant. And he always was, I guess, more attached to me, or always perceived me as someone who was very competent and could do whatever, even though he didn't want me to be emotional necessarily. He still praised me for all my independence, which is probably what created me to become the certain way. My mom, on the other hand, was much more anxious, and she was very emotionally all over the place, it felt like to me. And so for me, her concept of failure felt more obvious because it was just harder to understand what she was talking about because she was different from me. And so that person in that way affected my perception of failure more, because with my dad, the only thing that he really thought was a failure is if I expressed myself. Everything else he thought was fine for me. He thought, even though I'm not athletic, he's just strange, but he always perceived me as like athletic because I like running. So he perceived me like that. He perceived me as intelligent, whatever reason, he always perceived those things of me. And it was very obvious and very clear, because anything he liked, he would say it directly. Anything that he didn't like, it was obvious. My mom, it was so hard to read. And so that was probably more of the person that in my younger years, I was much more trying to understand where that approval comes from. Now I'm an adult, I don't care, and I understand. It's very different now. But a lot of times avoidants have that, especially if they don't heal themselves, they don't understand where it's coming from. And so they have a parental figure typically. With a lot of my patients, I see it. They're stuck on trying to figure out this dynamic. And so, particularly if it's their anxious parent or whoever, not a non-avoidant where they have trouble understanding, that's why it can create barriers in a relationship, because then they have a negative view of people like that, right? They might think, oh, people are emotional or dramatic. I don't want to deal with that. And this person is technically living like rent-free in their head, which is causing them to perceive anybody who behaves like that more chaotic or abnormal than they are. Does that make sense? Probably was a little confusing, but hopefully you got it, okay? The next one is actually the person that they obsess over, which could be the first one, is a person that they changed for. So it's usually a person that they're in a relationship with romantically, and they felt like the relationship was worth enough for them to actually face their fears and change, right? They hope that it will work out, even if, which is unfortunate, sometimes it can even happen if the relationship failed. They still have that concept because they know that change did change them, and they like their new version typically, which is why they kind of hope that that relationship worked. And this usually is somebody that they hold dear. Now, over time, they can heal and move on from this person, but it takes a while because they did something that they never thought they could do, which was change, and that really sticks to them. The next one is something I brought up before. They're role models, okay? Now, typically for avoidance, it's not going to be a person. Often it's like a movie character. I've noticed that, or a book character, a singer, a politician. It might even be like a very specific song. Some people are like that, or they just obsess over. A lot of people do this, right? But I notice avoidants do that. I have always found myself connecting through songs. One of my favorite songs is White Horse. And a lot of times that can kind of convey narratives to how people feel when they're avoidant, right? But in general, a movie character, they might see that as a role model. A book character, they might perceive it like that. And sometimes this can create a barrier for connection, because often you'll find that their role model has a lot of emotional dysregulation or detachment. I mentioned this before, but a really common role model for avoidance is like Tommy from Peaky Blinders. Very, very common. He's very collected, very detached. He has this, aura about him where he can just solve everything. And a lot of avoidants, I used to watch that show too. I really liked him, even though he's not healthy. A lot of people can relate to him is what it is, right? And that can sometimes create some sort of understanding of their own self. So that's why it's like a role model. And the last one is the most obvious one, I feel. It's the person that they're in love with or in a relationship with. This is not technically like rent-free because it's like a investment that they're grateful for having. It's usually the person they think about the most. It's a person that they love, that they forgive, that the person forgave them. And this could be the first one and also the third one, right? It could also be the person that they hurt in the past and they changed. It could be the person that they changed for. And so these criteria are typically the people that avoidants obsess over. So let's summarize. The person that they hurt in the past and they want to fix that, right? The person, typically a parental figure that they failed and they're not really sure how to understand that dynamic. This one is not direct. They don't know it. It's usually something that's causing dysfunction in their relationships, okay? The next one is the person they changed for. The fourth one is their role model, typically like a movie character, singer, a song, a book, whatever it may be. And the fifth one is a person they're in a relationship with. I hope this video is helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.